Hello, welcome to Learn the Shit Out of Excel, the only web series where I get drunk and teach you Microsoft Excel. My name is Marcus Robinson. Let's get started. Today's episode was inspired by my friend Ben Dunlap, who wants to know how you VLOOKUP left. That's an awesome question. I was really excited to figure this out, and we're going to show you that in just a minute. But first, there might be some of you who aren't familiar with what VLOOKUP is, so let's start there. VLOOKUP is a formula that lets you look up one value and return an associated value. That's basically it. Let me show you an example. Okay. So here we have a blank sheet. It's brand new, it's awesome, and it's nice. So let's create a table real quick. I won't bore you with the details. So we have a table, and the table has 3 columns. It's got information for the Beastie Boys. So let's say you want to look up a Beastie Boys actual name by what you know, their alias. So let's say we're going to start with Mike D. What you would do is you would start with a VLOOKUP formula. You can type it. And then remember, the first argument is going to be what you're searching for. So that's going to be B2 because it's right there. You're going to hit a comma to go to the next argument, and that's where we're going to get our table array. So we're going to start with alias right here, and we're going to go all the way down. It's right there at the end of the table. Then we're just going to hit F4 because I want to make sure that that table stays the same in case I move this formula around at all. I don't want anything shifting. And then we're going to comma and go to the next argument. This is the column, so we want the first name. So the first column, column A, that's column 1. Column B is column 2. Column C, that's number 3. So that's what we want, number 3. And then here's our last argument. We're going to go with false because we want to know exactly this guy's name. We don't want to guess. So we're going to say false, which if I have space bar, that does not work. So we're going to type in false like that. That is not how you spell it. So we're going to type in false like this, and then we're going to close that parentheses, and we're going to hit enter. And I am hoping that Mike shows up. And it does. Yahtzee. So now let's try the next one. Let's type in MCA and watch when I hit enter, the VLOOKUP is going to update that stuff. Sweet. So that's like VLOOKUP, I guess. Now, if you change the second argument to 2, it's going to show their last name. And so now when I say Mix Master Mike, hit that, boom, last name Schwartz. So that's how that works. So that's VLOOKUP, basically. We have killed like 10 minutes on that. I did not expect that. Okay, so what Ben asked for was he wanted to be able to VLOOKUP left. So now let's imagine that we have some other piece of information, like something unique, because Mike, Adam, and Michael are not things that we want. They're non-unique. They're non-unique values, so we don't want to use that. Let's pick something else. I don't know. Let's just number them 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to call that an ID for some reason. Let's imagine that it's the zip code. Let's imagine that it's the zip code that they live in. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Boom. So let's imagine that we want to look up. I don't remember what my intro was for that. So we've covered VLOOKUP. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a combination of the offset and the match formulas. There's 2 of them, and we're going to work on them real quick. We're going to work on them real quick, and we have this thing called match. Let's type that in. It returns the relative position of an item in an array and matches a specified value in a specified order. That's awesome. Great. So basically what that does is that's going to tell you how far from the top something is in a list, right? So let's say let's match. We're going to look up a value. We're going to put that value in C2 so that we can specify it because I like that level of fluidity. We could just say let's match diamond and then do that and then say we want to look through this array. We could totally do that and hit enter and it would work. Ha! I said it would work. And it would work. And you can see the diamond is the second one on the list because my list includes my list includes the header last name. So if I change this, it's going to switch over to 1. Watch. Boom. See what I'm talking about? So that's match. But I don't really want to run a match on that column. So let's move this over here. Let's hit enter. And let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, this is NA because diamond doesn't show up in that list. Remember, that's still hard-coded. That's why I don't like doing that. That's why I like slapping in the old C3. And if you hit F4, boom, you lock that stuff down, and there you go. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a ridiculous example, I understand. It's the type of code an idiot would put on his luggage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in the first row. If I type in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and hit enter, boom, that shifts over to 2 because, well, it's number 2 in the list. So ain't that sweet? Now, we want to move left using these ridiculous zip codes and find the alias of the Beastie Boy in question. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the offset function. Now let's go to the dictionary here. Offset returns a reference to a range that is given numbers of rows and columns from a given reference. Basically what that means is offset will take an address and then it will tell you what is here, basically. Like it'll go a couple to the left or right and then a couple up or down and tell you what's there. It's kind of like a treasure map. I like it. It tells you like 10 paces north and 8 paces east. You get to specify that, and it returns that value. It's pretty sick. So we're going to start with offset here, and the first argument is a reference. So the first. So the first argument is reference, and that's basically where we want to start. And we already did that with the match value. So let's show that. We're going to go to D10. You should be returning Michael. Where'd my match formula go? Damn, I'm so close to figuring this out, man. And we're going to have to start from scratch, and I'm getting drunk. We are recording a lot right now. Okay, so we are returning two. We are not returning what? Why would that be the case? Because you're 2. So it wants a reference. So we're going to start with the same column that we did with the match formula, D10. So we're going to lock that down and move to the next one. Now the next argument is rows. And there are 2 things to consider when we talk about this argument. The first is that it's an array, which means 0 is always the first value or the first element that can be used. So we need to subtract 1 from our so we need to subtract 1 from the value that the match formula is providing, because the match formula is telling us how far down the list to go. Now we could change the reference to D9 and then not subtract 1, but I want to keep the formula clean and similar for one of the next steps I'm going to show you. So we're going to say B3 minus 1, and then we're going to move to the next argument, which is columns. Now, the same rule applies. We're working with an array, so the 0 column is zip code. The -1 column, because we're moving left to answer Ben's question, is the first name column. -2 is last name, and -3 should be alias, unless I'm completely wrong, and we have to start over. So the next argument is height, and we're going to say 1 because we want 1 cell tall, and we want 1 cell wide. So those are all the arguments for the offset formula, and we're going to press enter, and hopefully we see MCA, because if you notice, the zip code for 23456, that Beastie Boy, is MCA. I just realized that he might be the one that died, and that might be a little insensitive. I apologize. I'm a huge fan, but I have been drinking, and I needed a list of names for examples. Moving on. Now, the next thing that I want to show you, I was telling you how I wanted to keep the D10s similar, and that's because I want to take these two formulas and combine them, because why take up all that extra real estate? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the match formula, and I'm just going to copy this out of sheer laziness. So let's move on to the next thing I want to show you, which is combining these two formulas together. What we're going to do is we are going to edit this one and lock down the B3, because I don't want that argument to change when I shift it. So I'm going to copy and paste the value into A2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the text. You notice I hit F2 to get into edit mode on the cell. I'm going to copy this formula. I'm going to escape because I don't want to change it. I'm going to move over here. And instead of looking at B3 minus 1, I am going to replace B3 with the formula that I just copied. And you'll notice it's all there. I hit enter and boom, now I have a super complex formula. So not only can I delete this, I can delete this. And this formula is locked down because, well, with the exception of the D10 and the D13, that is a solid formula right there. Because if you change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the alias is going to be my D. If you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, you're going to hit, well, looks like I typed that in the wrong. If you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, if you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 and hit enter, you're going to get Mixmaster Mike. It's going to VLOOKUP left for you. Now, so that is a VLOOKUP left scenario. Now, I want to do something. I want to show people, if you're not all that familiar with Excel, it can be kind of weird because we've been talking about how you refer to cells earlier. And so I want to kind of explain what's going on with that. Let me get a list here of things. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, I have 5 values in 5 columns all along the same row. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want a simple formula where B2 is equal to B4. Now, that's 1 because that is 1. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go 1 to the right, and when I paste it, it's going to say C4. C2 is equal to C4 because when I copy and paste, the cell relativity remains the same. Now, if you do not want the cells if you do not want if you do not want to happen, you can say I want the cell column to always be B. And I'm going to hit enter, and when I copy and when I paste, you'll notice the formula right up here is still B4. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over here. Now, the interesting thing is I did not lock down the row's value, which is the 4. So if I go down to F3 and hit paste, it's going to say 0 because it's looking for B5, and we can all see that B5 has nothing in it. Watch, I'll say 5 and it'll say 5 right there because it's looking for B5. If I didn't want that to move at all, I would lock down the row variable or argument, I suppose, with a $sign. Another way to do that is to hit F4 and it'll cycle through. So here you can say it's completely relative. Here it's locked down. Here only only the row is locked down. So I hit F4 again, only the column is locked down. If I copy left or right, going to be B. The 4 is going to change. So let's go back to all-purpose cleaner right there and hit enter. So that is kind of cell relativity. If you want, I will show you. No, I'm not showing you another example. So that is cell relativity. One last thing I want to go over. One last thing I want to go over tonight. I was thinking about going over one more thing tonight, but I think no. This week's episode of Learn the Shit Out of Excel. We'd like to thank our sponsors this week. Coors Light. I was drunk at the convenience store last night, and it was on sale. And I guess that equals bad decisions. Coors Light. It's a bad decision in a can, I suppose. I don't know. Is that that's... So, that does it for our show tonight. That does it for our show tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Coors Light. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Coors Light, for setting the mood. Right? That's good one. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Coors Light, for being on sale at the Shell station last night at 2 a.m. I hope this isn't terrible when I edit it. I hope. Course.
'Cause nobody can do it like Mix Master can. Come on!